Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us today. We want to talk a little bit. We're continuing our series through our church covenant and just reminding us that even through the pandemic, we have committed to each other, that there is a commitment that the Bible speaks to local Christians and a local church context that is a blessing to the believer and a blessing to each other. And we hope that if you're watching this, you are a covenant member of Hebron Baptist Church. But if you're not and you live in the area, we'd love for you to become a member of Hebron Baptist Church. But if you are watching from a distance, we hope that you are fulfilling these same duties in your church wherever you are. Again, the idea of the church covenant is that you are committing your life to say to the church, I am me in my walk with faith. I will do the same likewise to you, and I will serve for the betterment of each other. And so this is the covenant that we enter into. And so we are talking today. We're finishing up because we began last week. And there was a lot in this clause, so we thought it would be best to take it over 2 different days. The first one, let me just read the clause. It says, we will work together for the continuance of a faithful evangelical ministry in this church as we sustain its viability through worship, ordinances of the Lord's Supper and baptism, discipline, and doctrines. We will contribute cheerfully and regularly to the support of the ministry, the expenses of the church, the relief of the poor, and the spread of the gospel through all nations. And so today we're going to look at that last half to talk about really the command of Scripture that Christians are generous people, that we give not just our time, but we do give our treasure for the sake of the gospel ministry through a local church. And so this is challenging for many of us. This takes discipline. This is a spiritual discipline. Many people just think it's something different as opposed to, Bible reading, prayer. Yeah, I got those. Check. But no, giving your money is an act of spiritual discipline. And where you say, what God has given me, I entrust that 10% or more, as the Lord leads, is given back for the good of the gospel ministry, because I know that the God who gave it to me to begin with is going to use it and bless me and take care of me, even if I have to give part of it away. And so again, 2 Corinthians 8 and 9 is a great passage to read through as you wrestle through this and think through this. I'll read a little bit about this more. But Mark, what's your thoughts about how we can do that within the covenant life of the church?
Yeah, one of the great things, there's just a lot of practical things. And we've talked about this a lot, so we don't need to talk about this a whole lot more. But it, just as a reminder to folks, we do have the ability to give online. We give instructions for that during the service. I encourage you, as you fulfill the covenant of to continue to give to the church, I would encourage, you can do that any day of the week, and it's perfectly fine. But maybe consider to try to do, even if you do online, which we'd encourage you, to do it in that time during our worship services, because it reminds us then that it is in fact an act of worship, that this is part of, we're doing something together. It's not like we're not sitting by the phone waiting for you to send your gift in, like individually, but your gift, it's not like I sure hope that John Smith sends his check in. We're not waiting for that. Like, this is something that we contribute as a whole together. The New Testament in the book of Acts, I'm reading in my quiet time, talked about how they sort of had things in common. That's sort of the modern. That's for us. Our translation of that text, having things in common, is having this budget and fund that we have to do ministry here, to keep the building on, to pay for the technology things that we've had to incur. But I did something I was just thinking about as I was reading through this again just now. The way the clause is read, we will contribute cheerfully and regularly to the support of the ministry, comma, the expenses of the church. Those aren't the same, one and the same thing.
Right.
So right now in the life of our church, yeah, absolutely, keep giving. That's a 5-second video. Keep giving. You can still do that, unless, of course, you've lost your income, and that's a different story. But the extent to which God has provided for you, we say is a good general rule. 10% is a good general rule of whatever you take in, but that's between you and the Lord. But so that said, and I think Shawn's going to talk a bit more about that in a second. Just thinking about how you can contribute to the ministry here. So right now, admittedly, we aren't doing much ministry. We're not asking for volunteers and a bunch of things. But, so you have gotten a nice vacation over the last several months from being a part of ministry. I hope and pray that you are rested and ready for the season to come, because there are going to be several needs for you to support the ministry of the church outside of giving. For one, trying to get children's ministry started back up again. That's going to need a ton of volunteers. And honestly, the thing keeping us from doing it already is a lack of volunteers. Like, we won't be able to do it without volunteers. You could give all the money in the world, but we need volunteers to run that ministry. So children's ministry is coming up. We're going to be figuring that out. We're going to need volunteers for that. There was something else I thought of. We're in the discussion process of how we can start thinking about doing outreach and evangelism in a programmatic way over the next few months. We're going to need people to show up to things like that. We've got life group coming up to start soon. Our life groups are going to be launching. There's going to be opportunities to do ministry through your life group. So now's the time to start wrapping your mind around the fact that your vacation from service and ministry is soon over, and we're going to have to get to work in this new reality, however that might happen.
Yeah. And I want to say two things one thing before I forget. Notice the word contribute. It implies that there are others, or all of us, are contributing something. And that means that each of us have to play our role. So, for example, in this time of COVID, and we were talking about the children's ministry, well, maybe our more at-risk people should not be serving with children right away.
Right.
So that means other people are going to need to say, I'm willing to step up and serve.
Perhaps people that haven't done it before.
Yeah, people who haven't done it before. But we have said, even before this, when we were kind of running all cylinders, so to speak, we were still short on volunteers in that ministry, is that if you could contribute just something, if you're not comfortable with leading a kid's Bible study, well, you could be a helper, which frees somebody else that might be able to be the Bible study leader. Or if you don't feel like you can be with the kids in rocking, or the preschoolers or toddlers or whatever, you just don't feel like maybe you could be our greeter that helps get children and parents connected to their class, helping carry in other areas, maybe administratively outside. And then you multiply that to every ministry we already have going, music, everything else. There are ways, if you just contribute a little bit, it frees somebody else to do maybe a different role. But also I'd say that it helps God to reveal to you what your ministry or role in that church is. Many people say, I don't know what God's made me for. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
The answer to that is children's ministry.
Yeah, the answer is always children's ministry. And the second thing I say is just serve somewhere. Right. Because once you start serving, God will start to see what's all the needs that are actually happening.
And we need more greeters too, don't we?
We definitely need more greeters right now. So everybody does their part. But let me just now switch it to the money or the treasure part, because it talks about the expenses of the church, the relief of the poor, the spread of the gospel. So you might feel like, well, if I tithe or contribute, I'm not being able to give a lot. Well, that's okay. There is not a dollar amount that says that, okay, this is perfect.
Right.
What it is one, the heart posture is that if you're trusting the Lord, and this is an attitude of thanksgiving and cheerfulness, and two, that you are doing it, that you are obedient and contributing. Because what it says is, if you say, well, I can't do that, what you're saying, without knowing it, you're saying that's somebody else's job. Well, that's not how we read the scriptures. We're all part of the body of Christ. We all need to do our part. In this case, that we give financially to the church. So even if you can't, I always tell people, the Bible doesn't prescribe legalistically a 10%. As a matter of fact, I think that the New Testament says generosity is beyond the 10%.
Yeah.
And so when we say 10%, that's kind of the starting point to me. Now, so what I say is try to work towards that. If you've never done that before, try to work towards that. But even if you're giving 10, 50, I didn't mean percent, but if you're just giving something, some time monetary thing, as you budget and as you work and say, at the end of the year, look, God, I have learned how to trust in you better this year than I did before because I'm able to contribute tribute to you. And honestly, this is, and know what I'm about to say is meant to brag, but at the end of the year when I get my contribution statement, there are many times that I've said, Sarah, look at how we've been able to help the ministry of the church. This has been, I would have never dreamed that we would have been able to help in this way. But I also then think, what's behind that money? It's not the money. It is for the Bible school program. It is for the technology we've had to go online. It's for, as it says, for the spread of the gospel to all nations, for the missionaries that are supported through our cooperative program giving, that are at the ends of the earth, that we're about to send one of our own church families that will be supported by our cooperative program giving, that I celebrate the fact that God who has given so that we might meet the needs of others. And I think this is the spirit of 2 Corinthians 9, verse 11. Well, verse 10, it says, now the one who provides seed for the sower and bread for food will also provide and multiply your seed and increase the harvest of your righteousness. You will be enriched in every way for all generosity, which produces thanksgiving to God through us. For the ministry of this service is not only supplying the needs of the saints, but is also overflowing in many expressions of thanks to God. Because of the proof provided by this ministry, they will glorify God for your obedient confession of the gospel in Christ and for your generosity in sharing with them for everyone. And as they pray on your behalf, they will have deep affection for you because of the surpassing grace of God in you. Thanks be to God for his indescribable gift. And when Paul's speaking there, he's talking about a gift for the churches outside of Jerusalem, for the Jerusalem church that was suffering. And so this gift, or this monetary gift, he's saying results in two things. It's kind of what I was trying to express. I was thanking God that I could contribute to the needs of someone else. I was thanking God. Also, the recipients are thanking God because God provided through somebody else. Yeah. And so it's all an act of worship for all of us. And so I just encourage you, because we don't want to make this long, to realize that your faithfulness in this is not personal. It is a collective act of worship with each other.
Yeah.
I've heard so many times people say, well, don't talk about that because that's an individual thing. No, it's not. No, it's not. It is an act of us committing in covenant to one another to help with the expenses of the church, but also the vibrancy or the financial health of the church, as well as the ministries we support, are based on how we each individually participate together. So I encourage you that in this way that we would contribute financially as well as with our talents and time to the ministry of the church, and that you would fulfill that commitment in your local church or here in Hebron Baptist. But how do we do it? We thank God for it, because we know without him, his provision, his care for us, that we would do it. And I guess it would also say that if we are not, what is it saying to us about how we trust the Lord and how we support those ministries? But I would say encouragingly, thank God for his indescribable gift. We thank you for Jesus Christ. The reason why we are generous is because God has been generous to us. He has overcome our sin through Jesus Christ, that our faith in him, we are saved eternally by his grace and by this grace gift. And therefore, we want to be generous as a result of God's work in us. And if you haven't trusted Christ, we hope that that's your first step in this, not to follow some law, not to be faithful to Dave Ramsey, or not any other reason except for because you have been saved by grace, that you want to bring praise and glory and honor to God. So if you would like to know more about salvation, go to our website, HebronBaptist.org. Go to that prayer, help, and hope section, and go to that hope section. We'd love to share with you about salvation, about how you can trust in Jesus Christ. But also, let me just say this, because you might be feeling guilty that you can't contribute. Look, there is a help section there for a reason. If you have financial needs, if you have some ways that that's what the spirit that Mark was talking about in Acts, is that if we have a need, that we all can rise. That we want to do that. We have funds available to do that. We would also be able to say, hey, church, hey, there's a specific need. How might we help this family? But we also have a way that if you just want to privately reach out to our deacons, they would be glad to support you and help you if you have a financial need. So go through that help section there as well if you need it during this time of coronavirus.
Yep. And if you'd love to join us on Sunday morning, we'd love to have you. We're having more and more folks venture out and in faith. Lord, forbid we violate your conscience. If you are an at-risk person, we certainly want you to continue to stay home where it's safe. But if you feel comfortable getting out and want to start coming on Sunday mornings on campus, check us out or send us an email, at reservations@hebronbaptist.org. And any communication regarding Sunday morning, whether it's getting reservations or any questions you might have, email us at reservations@hebronbaptist.org, and we'll respond even all the way up to Sunday morning.
Yep.
So if something changes suddenly at the last minute, let us know. But we'd love to have you join us either here in the sanctuary, which, as Shawn said earlier, was almost full Sunday, or in the fellowship hall, where we still have tons of room. So please join us. Please reach out and make a reservation and join us on Sunday morning.
Thank you for joining us today, and may God bless you and bless his church here at Hebron and wherever you attend church in covenant with them. God bless.
God bless.